This baby had a very hard time being quiet. So what ended up happening was
Colleen Hoover, the best-selling author of It Ends With Us, has completely deactivated her Instagram account, erasing in an instant what had become a thriving digital community of more than 2 million followers. For years, her Instagram presence had been a vital extension of her identity as both a writer and a public figure, a place where she shared not only news about her books and upcoming projects, but also candid insights into her daily life, from reading recommendations to warm reflections on family and creativity. To her readers, these glimpses created a sense of closeness that felt rare in the often impersonal world of publishing, almost as if they were part of her inner circle. That is why the sudden disappearance of her account struck so deeply. It wasn't just a vanishing profile, it was the abrupt silence of a voice many had grown used to hearing. Overnight, thousands of readers found themselves refreshing their feeds in disbelief, hoping it was a temporary glitch, only to be met with the same empty results. As speculation mounted, the timing of her retreat quickly became a point of fascination. Hoover has weathered controversies before, most notably the ill-fated attempt to release a coloring book inspired by a story rooted in domestic violence, a move that was widely condemned as tone-deaf and insensitive. The backlash had been swift and brutal, casting a shadow over her reputation and forcing her to apologize publicly. Against that backdrop, her sudden withdrawal from Instagram felt almost like a defensive maneuver, a way to sidestep another storm before it could even begin. Others, however, suggested a more personal reason. Perhaps Hoover needed a break from the relentless scrutiny that accompanies life in the spotlight, or perhaps she was wrestling with struggles unseen by the public. Still, the silence did little to calm her fans. Instead, it only deepened the mystery, fueling endless threads of discussion across forums and social media platforms. The uncertainty was heightened by the ongoing drama surrounding the It Ends With Us film adaptation, directed by Justin Baldoni and starring Blake Lively, whose Hollywood profile as Ryan Reynolds' wife and Taylor Swift's close friend made the project an immediate magnet for attention. The film, already hotly debated among fans of the novel, became even more controversial as casting choices and behind-the-scenes whispers circulated online. Hoover's visible alignment with the adaptation, standing beside the actors, promoting the project, and defending creative decisions, had sparked its own division among her readership, with some praising her involvement and others accusing her of compromising the story's authenticity. Her disappearance, coming at the height of this tension, felt to many like a direct response to the mounting criticism, even if no official explanation was given. In the end, Hoover's choice to vanish from a platform where she had built such a powerful connection has only amplified the frenzy surrounding her name. What was once a space of joy, updates, and encouragement has now become an empty void, a reminder of how fragile the bridge between authors and their communities can be. For fans who once cherished her openness and accessibility, the absence feels almost like abandonment, raising a question that lingers in every conversation about her future. Has Colleen Hoover, the writer who built an empire on stories of raw honesty and emotional intimacy, turned her back on the very audience that helped lift her to fame? Or is this only a temporary silence before she re-emerges in an even more commanding way? But before we unravel whether Colleen Hoover is stepping back from the spotlight because she regrets siding with Blake Lively, or something else entirely is unfolding, let's take a step back and examine how we even got here. It Ends With Us wasn't just another novel that climbed the bestseller charts. It detonated into a cultural phenomenon. Colleen Hoover's story, lauded for its unflinching portrayal of abuse, resilience, and survival, struck a nerve with millions of readers, particularly younger audiences who found in it a raw honesty that mirrored parts of their own lives. It wasn't just a book, it became a movement. On TikTok, where communities of passionate readers built a thriving culture of recommendations and emotional reviews, Hoover's novel spread like wildfire, passed from one reader to the next until it became impossible to escape its influence. Its emotional intensity, combined with the sense of solidarity it created among its readers, made Hollywood's interest inevitable. When the adaptation was officially announced, anticipation surged. Fans were overjoyed to learn that Justin Baldoni, best known to many for his heartfelt role in Jane the Virgin and admired in the industry for his thoughtful work behind the camera, would not only star in the film, but also direct it. Baldoni's reputation for telling stories with sincerity and depth gave fans hope that the adaptation might preserve the novel's emotional gravity instead of sanding it down for broader commercial appeal. He had a track record of championing projects with heart, and his early statements suggested he wanted to treat Hoover's story with care, respecting both its painful themes and its enduring message of resilience. To longtime readers, it felt like the book was in safe hands. Then came the casting bombshell. Blake Lively would take on the role of the female lead. The announcement sent shockwaves through the fan base. On one hand, Lively's star power was undeniable, known not only for her breakout role of Gossip Girl, but also as one half of a Hollywood power couple alongside Ryan Reynolds and a close friend to pop icon Taylor Swift. Her name instantly propelled the adaptation into mainstream headlines. What had been a project cherished by a devoted community of readers was suddenly rebranded as a major Hollywood event, complete with glossy red carpet appeal. Some celebrated the move, thrilled that the story they loved would gain the visibility that only an A-list actress could bring. But others grew wary, uneasy that the emotional authenticity of Hoover's narrative might be overshadowed by the bright glare of celebrity branding. The stakes could not have been higher. For readers, It Ends With Us was never just another romance novel. It was a deeply personal exploration of trauma, of cycles of abuse passed down through generations, and of the impossible choices women are often forced to make in the pursuit of safety and dignity. Its weight extended far beyond the genre labels that had once defined Hoover's career, transforming her from a beloved romance author with a niche following into a mainstream cultural voice. The novel sparked urgent conversations about domestic violence, generational trauma, and the complexity of survival, cementing Hoover's position as more than just a storyteller. She had become a catalyst for dialogue. Baldoni's early involvement reassured fans, at least initially. His public image as a filmmaker driven by empathy rather than profit, combined with his rapid acquisition of the rights and his open promises to honor Hoover's original intent, suggested a project rooted in sincerity. Yet as production updates trickled out, the narrative around the adaptation began to shift. The casting of Lively, while undeniably headline-grabbing, marked a turning point. The focus seemed to drift away from the raw, painful honesty of Hoover's text and toward the glossier spectacle of Hollywood glamour. The story that had once lived in the quiet, vulnerable space between author and reader was now in danger of being reshaped, repackaged, and rebranded for mass consumption. And for Colleen Hoover's fans, this shift raised questions not only about the future of the adaptation, but also about Hoover's own choices and alliances in navigating the storm of fame. What began as a passion project rooted in vulnerability and truth gradually transformed into something resembling a studio spectacle crafted for maximum visibility. That was when the cracks started to appear. Instead of delivering a faithful retelling of a story that had already touched countless lives, It Ends With Us seemed at risk of turning into a stage for behind-the-scenes drama long before the cameras even rolled. The film, based on Colleen Hoover's best-selling novel, follows Lily, a young woman who confronts the generational cycles that have shaped her life and ultimately finds the strength to break them. At its core, it's a story meant to inspire, offering raw honesty and a powerful message of resilience. From the outside, the project looked like a dream collaboration. A beloved book praised for its unflinching truth, a director determined to preserve its emotional depth, and a glamorous Hollywood star poised to expand its reach. Yet soon after production began, troubling reports began to surface. Insiders whispered that Blake Lively was pushing for significant rewrites, altering character arcs, reshaping pivotal moments, and softening the story's darker edges. This reportedly put her at odds with director Justin Baldoni, who was fighting to keep the adaptation true to Hoover's original vision. What started as quiet murmurs quickly escalated into a flood of speculation. Rumors of unauthorized script changes and private disagreements spread rapidly, while whispers of personal tension only added more fuel to the fire. Alleged flirtatious messages, creative clashes, and heated disputes behind the scenes set the internet ablaze, dividing fans. Some wondered if Blake was leveraging her star power to reshape the story into her own image, while others worried that Baldoni's commitment to authenticity was being eroded by Hollywood's obsession with glossy spectacle. For Baldoni, it reportedly felt as though the very heart of It Ends With Us was slipping away, piece by piece. Adding another layer of intrigue was the silence of Colleen Hoover herself. From the start, she had been closely involved with Justin Baldoni, championing his commitment to preserving the raw, emotional honesty of her book. Yet as rumors mounted about Blake Lively's growing influence, Hoover's quietness became impossible to ignore. Was she deliberately looking the other way as tensions threatened to unravel the project, or was she carefully biding her time, waiting for the right moment to speak? Her refusal to comment only heightened the uncertainty. How long could whispers swirl unchecked before they jeopardized the entire production? And when Hoover finally broke her silence, would her words calm the storm, or cast an even darker shadow over the adaptation she had fought so hard to bring into the world? Then came the most shocking development of all. Rumors began circulating of an actual lawsuit, the kind of Hollywood bombshell that could sink a project overnight. According to chatter on the Whisper Network, Baldoni was so deeply frustrated with the direction of It Ends With Us, and so convinced Blake hadn't even read the novel in its entirety, that he was ready to take legal action. Though no official filings ever surfaced, alleged leaked texts and emails painted a damning picture. Blake had, at best, skimmed the book she was helping reshape. For fans who once dismissed talk of behind-the-scenes tension as routine Hollywood drama, this revelation was seismic. The very idea that Baldoni, long seen as the fiercest guardian of Hoover's story, might pursue litigation left many wondering what had truly gone wrong. He had positioned himself as the protector of the novel's emotional message: resilience, heartbreak, love, survival, and appeared determined to shield it from being polished into a hollow, big-budget spectacle. If he was willing to risk his reputation by threatening something as explosive as a lawsuit, insiders argued it wasn't about money but about principle. But this wave of speculation didn't just put Blake under scrutiny. It also drew Colleen Hoover into the line of fire. She had entrusted Baldoni with her most personal work, believing he was the one who understood its raw honesty. And yet, as rumors swirled that Lively had been rewriting the story she barely read, Hoover seemed to be aligning, quietly but unmistakably, on the actress's side. Her silence on the matter was soon followed by a sudden disappearance from Instagram, only intensifying suspicions. Had she traded artistic integrity for star power? Was the heart of her book being sacrificed at the altar of Hollywood gloss? The backlash was immediate and ferocious. Online forums exploded with debates, hashtags trended, and fans who had once celebrated the adaptation now openly questioned whether the soul of the story was being stripped away. What had begun as a passion project promising truth and vulnerability was now engulfed in allegations, disappearances, and whispered betrayals. To some, it felt like the breaking point. To others, it was the last fragile chance to salvage the legacy of It Ends With Us before Hollywood consumed it entirely. Oh boy, Perez Hilton couldn't have scripted it better. And if you're not familiar with her, she is Colleen Hoover. But now Colleen has ended it. She's had enough. Her entire Instagram page is gone, wiped clean, leaving fans stunned. From the outside, Hoover's place in the It Ends With Us firestorm had always seemed straightforward. Justin Baldoni was the director who championed her novel from the beginning, promising to treat its delicate themes with sincerity and preserve the emotional honesty that made the book resonate with millions. Fans trusted him. He was the safe pair of hands, the one who would guard the heart of the story from Hollywood's tendency to dilute and distort. Yet when the pressure mounted, Colleen didn't back Justin. Instead, she made the shocking decision to publicly align herself with Blake Lively, the very actress Justin allegedly accused of twisting the narrative beyond recognition. That single move flipped the entire conversation. Almost overnight, social media erupted. Lifelong fans of the novel felt blindsided, even betrayed. To them, it was unthinkable that Hoover would side with a Hollywood A-lister who, according to whispers, hadn't even fully read the book she was rewriting. Industry insiders rushed to defend the decision, calling it pragmatic. Siding with Blake, they argued, ensured the project's star power and safeguarded its box office potential. But for readers, Colleen's pivot felt far less like strategy and far more like selling out. The timing couldn't have been worse. Hoover was already under fire for her controversial It Ends With Us coloring book, a tone-deaf move many critics said trivialized the novel's exploration of domestic abuse. Now, her shift toward Blake only reignited old wounds. Fans began combing through past interviews for clues, wondering if she truly believed in Blake's vision, or if she had simply surrendered to a production already drowning in rumors of lawsuits, rewrites, and star-driven clashes. Then came her silence. For an author who built her empire on direct connection with readers, sharing unfiltered pieces of her life online, her sudden disappearance from Instagram felt seismic. Loyal fans refreshed their feeds, waiting for her voice, only to be met with nothing. That absence unleashed a tidal wave of speculation. Twitter and TikTok became war zones. Hashtags like hashtag Team Justin, hashtag Team Blake, and even hashtag Colleen trended simultaneously, fracturing the fan base into smaller, sharper factions. Some argued Hoover's silence was a carefully crafted PR strategy, a way to distance herself before the chaos consumed her. Others saw it as the final nail in the coffin of her credibility. Was Colleen still the down-to-earth writer who once earned readers' trust? Or had she sold her soul to Hollywood, trading authenticity for the glitter and protection that came with A-list alliances? And then there was Ryan Reynolds. His silence was almost louder than Colleen's. Known for his razor-sharp online wit, Reynolds could have defused the entire situation with a single clever post. Instead, he said nothing. To fans, the quiet seemed calculated. Was he shielding Blake from scrutiny? Pulling strings quietly behind the curtain? Or distancing himself to avoid being dragged into the fallout? The lack of answers only fueled more conspiracy theories. Meanwhile, TikTok creators dove headfirst into the chaos. Every leaked text, every alleged email, every behind-the-scenes clip was slowed down, analyzed, and debated frame by frame. The adaptation that had once promised vulnerability and truth had now spiraled into a spectacle of drama, betrayal, and digital forensics. Its future is uncertain as the fractured loyalties of the people behind it. Some creators pointed to Colleen Hoover's older interviews, suggesting she had been signaling this delicate balancing act all along. The impossible choice between protecting the trust of her readers and surviving the ruthless politics of Hollywood. At the time, those comments seemed almost casual, the kind of vague remarks any author might make when discussing adaptation. But in hindsight, fans began revisiting them with new intensity, interpreting every pause, every turn of phrase as a clue that Hoover had long known how fragile this project truly was. For many, that revelation cut deep. It Ends With Us had never been just a book.
We've always been inseparable. From the very beginning of our marriage, there was this unspoken agreement that wherever one of us went, the other wouldn't be far behind. 4 years, we managed to live that way, sharing days, nights, routines, and seasons side by side. We had never been apart for more than a week, and even that felt long. But when this film came into our lives, everything shifted. It demanded a kind of sacrifice neither of us had truly prepared for. Suddenly, we were separated by entire oceans, bound by schedules that cared nothing for our hearts. 4 long months stretched between us, and though we found ways to bridge the distance, brief visits in the middle, 7 precious days here, a fleeting week there, those reunions only made the ache sharper. They reminded us of how heavy separation can be, how unnatural it felt to live without the other's constant presence. It stretched us, it tested us, and in a strange way, it strengthened us, forcing us to discover just how deep our commitment really ran. I often say this movie would not have been possible without her, and I mean that with every fiber of my being. While I was on set, pouring myself into the work, giving everything I had to the story, she was carrying a different weight, an invisible weight that was no less heavy. She was the one holding our family together, nurturing our children, and keeping the pulse of home alive. She wasn't simply supporting me. She was building the foundation that allowed me to stand at all. Every frame of that film carries her fingerprints, though you'll never see her name in the credits. It is marked by her sacrifice, her patience, and her love. And that photograph, the one of her clinging to me with tears in her eyes, is living proof of it. Every time I see it, I am reminded that behind every story I tell, behind every ounce of success I achieve, there is a woman who has chosen to love me even through the hardest separations and the deepest uncertainty.